Hello, my name is Phoebe McLaughlin. I am one of the occupational therapists here at the Teach Group. So today begins the series or the workshop series of our primitive reflex series. And today we are going to be talking about the ATNR. So what are primitive reflexes? Primitive reflexes are a set of reflexes that we are either born with or we get right after birth. We typically have them for a very short period of time. They're there to hold a very specific purpose. And usually once that purpose is gone, the reflex is gone, or what we call integrated. Sometimes these reflexes stick around longer than what they should. It doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. Typically, there isn't really much of an explanation. However, if these reflexes don't go away and they stay retained, they can affect the development of important skills later on in life. So today, we're going to talk about the ATNR. So what is the ATNR? ATNR is the abbreviation for the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. It is one of the 5 main reflexes that we test during our OT evaluations. This reflex coordinates the extension of an arm and leg as the head turns that way. So it's commonly referred to as the fencing reflex since it resembles a fencing pose. So what I mean by that is if the head turns to the left, it is going to make the body extend the arm and extend the leg, and then it makes the opposite side of the body bend like this. So we kind of look like a fencer. So this reflex assists the baby through the birth canal. It ensures airway protection while lying on the back and is the beginning of hand-eye coordination. So this reflex should typically integrate between 4 and 6 months old. So why does integration matter? So a retained ATNR can affect hand-eye coordination, the ability to cross midline, reading and writing skills, hand dominance, and then overall fine motor skills. So crossing midline is if we pretend there is an imaginary line down the middle of our body. It's crossing it just without even thinking about it. So difficulty crossing midline can impact reading and writing because our eyes and hands have to cross midline to perform these tasks. So this can show up as losing our place while reading, hesitating or skipping words, or even having a hard time writing across a full line. Difficulty crossing midline can also affect hand dominance. So instead of naturally choosing one dominant hand for most tasks, we end up using which hand is ever closest to the item. So if we have a hard time crossing midline, we're not going to pick a dominant hand to cross. Instead, if something's on the left side of our body, we'll just use our left hand, or if it's the right, we'll just use our right. So if we don't really develop a dominant hand, then neither hand is getting enough practice to build strong fine motor skills. So how we assess for the ATNR, there are 2 main ways that we assess during our OT evaluations. So the first one that we do is having the child on their hands and knees. So they'll be on their hands and knees with their hands right under their shoulders and then their knees right in line with their hips. So we gently turn their heads side to side. So if we notice any like elbow bending while we turn, or any like shoulder rolling, or even if their fingers kind of curl up, we consider that a positive sign for a retained ATNR. We can also test this reflex while the child is standing up. So they stand up straight, have their arms out straight in front of them, and then we turn their head again side to side. So if we notice any like elbow bending or like shoulder turning or swaying to that side, we consider that a positive sign of a retained reflex. So the good news is if we do have retained reflexes, we are not stuck with them forever. So there are specific exercises and activities that we can do that help integrate the reflex. So the main exercise that we do is something called the lizard. So it looks really complicated on paper, but it is not that complicated in real life. So for this exercise, we typically have the child, they're laying face down, usually like on a mat. You have them lay down and then have them turn their head to a side. So if they turn their head to the left, then whatever side they're looking at, that side of their body is going to be bent, meaning that they are going to bend their arm and then also bend their leg. And then whatever side the back of their head is on, that side of their body is going to be as straight as can be. And then you're just going to have them switch. So they kind of look like a little bit of a lizard as a lizard walks around. So with this exercise, whenever we give it to parents, we ask them to do it 2 to 3 times a day, 10 times each time. Some other activities that we can do, because we don't just have to do exercises, we can do pretty much any activity that encourages the head to move independently from the arms and legs or requires us to cross midline. So we can do like reciprocal hands and knees crawling. So a lot of the time with my kiddos in here, I will pop open the like pop-up tunnel, and I'll have puzzle pieces on one side and a puzzle on the other, and I'll have the kids crawl through the tunnel to get a puzzle piece and then crawl back to go put it in, and just working on that reciprocal crawling, but in a more fun environment. You can also do army crawling. You can do animal walks, such as bear walks, crab walks, even jumping jacks and wall push-ups, like with the head turned. So, wall push-up, turning your head and just coming in like this, and then even on the other side. So in conclusion, retained reflexes are more common than most realize, and they are very, very treatable. So consistent and correct practice of the exercises or activities is the most effective way to help these reflexes integrate. And as integration occurs or the reflex starts to go away, the things like the skills that we saw that were affected, so such as like coordination, crossing midline, reading and writing, overall fine motor skills, those also typically start to fall into line and improve. So thank you guys for your time. I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at socials@theteachgroup.com.